Hey, so in this video, I'm going to take you through a recorded demo of the VirgilHR platform, which is an employment and labor law compliance solution designed to help HR teams stay up to date and stay compliant with all the different labor laws in the US. For this video, I'll start with a brief overview of some of the key features we'll be going through, and then we'll do a more drilled down guided tour of each of the features, and I'll point out some of the unique nuances and capabilities along the way. So starting off with that orientation, what we're looking at here is the VirgilHR home dashboard. So VirgilHR is a web-based platform designed for whether it's HR individuals or teams to access and collaborate on different compliance projects. Off to the side here, we've got different tools at our disposal, including a chatbot, a resource library, legal FAQs, multi-state comparison tool, and a handbook builder. And in the top right-hand corner, overall search capability and your settings. And I think the best place to start is going to be our legal updates. So in addition to a weekly email newsletter that you'll receive from our team, which is going to summarize any legislative changes that have occurred within the past week, we also have, as you're logged in, this announcements section. So here you've got the option to scroll and see different changes that are happening in the employment law landscape. And what's nice, it's going to include, not just general or federal level, but state specific and local changes as well. With these, you can open them up to get a brief description. We'll include any relevant hyperlinks like to original legislation, as well as flag any potential impacted FAQs and resources as well. And now, I think we all know one of the most challenging aspects of the employment law landscape is, a law will say that it's coming out, but it doesn't go into effect for like 6 months. So this is really where the compliance calendar is helpful in not only keeping track of the effective date, but also any tasks that are associated with it, for the HR professional or for the business. So with this tool, you've got the option to filter by time frame. So if we wanted to start doing, planning into FY25 and start to look at laws that are going into effect during that time frame, we can use that parameter here. You also have the option to filter by certain states or at the national level, and you can also configure your settings to only receive news and alerts for certain states that you care about. And you also have that option to do keyword searches as well. So from here, let's say we had a vested interest in maybe this job transparency bill that was passed in Illinois. I would simply click on it to open it up to get more information. I can get a quick description. Again, that hyperlink, I can quickly see when it goes into effect, as well as who it applies to, some additional details of the requirement. And then from here, I can add this directly to my work calendar. So we integrate with Apple, Google, or Outlook calendars. A helpful tip I've seen teams do is maybe rather than a personal calendar, you would instead create a shared compliance calendar layer to then export that event so that everyone has visibility of when the law goes into effect. So great option there. Then you also have the option from this update to directly create a task. So with that option, in this case, with this job transparency bill, this is going to impact maybe any job postings that we have for the state of Illinois. So from there, I can set a due date. I can also assign this either to myself or potentially to someone on my team or multiple team members. Then from there, I can modify the description. I can also create a checklist, include any reference links, or upload attachments. Once it's created, in addition to an email notification I'll receive, I can then come either down further on the home dashboard to see my task list, or come over to the task tab here to then manage these tasks. What's nice is, in addition to creating manual tasks and managing them, you do have the option to both create tasks from scratch, and VirgilHR will also automatically create tasks for your team. So great example, there's a voting leave notice specifically for the District of Columbia that's effective today. This is highlighted for me here. I can see this task was created for me by VirgilHR. So I can open this up to get a description, see that this notice needs to be provided, which is going to take me to that original link. So really effective way with the legal updates and the compliance calendar and task to proactively keep track and manage all of the different laws that are changing and any actions for your team as well. So the next feature we'll go through is our chatbot. So I know whether you're subscribed to a different compliance tool where you're potentially doing research in a database, or you're turning to Google to do research any compliance requirements, we've changed that experience to be a chatbot experience. So With this, you can see there's a ton of content in here, and it covers a variety of topic areas all related to compliance. So with this, the chatbot's going to analyze what laws apply and provide guidance along the way. So some of the most helpful workflows, we have an end-to-end onboarding compliance workflow, which is going to start with the talent acquisition process and take you through, what questions can or cannot be asked in order to stay compliant, what needs to go into, any employee or worker classification as well, new hiring documentation and workplace posters, background checks as well. And then we'll also include additional content here throughout the employee lifecycle. So things like meal and rest breaks, covering overtime, mandatory training, pay changes and commissions, wage deductions and garnishments, workers' comp and unemployment insurance, offboarding and terminations, and of course, anything related to leave. So I'll go through an example of, let's say you had an employee who was requesting to take parental leave in the state of Massachusetts, and you wanted to know, what laws do I need to be considering for this leave request? So I'm going to select the leave workflow. I'll be prompted to select which state the employee works in. So I'll scroll down to find Massachusetts. Then we'll start the workflow here. So we're going to start off by titling the chat. We'll say we have John Doe who's requesting parental leave and hit enter. And so the chatbot first would like us to clarify the nature of the employee's leave request. And we see all these different leave types are populated for us. Anything that's grayed out here just doesn't apply within the jurisdiction. Anything that's bolded does. So no bereavement leave in Massachusetts. But if we scroll through, we can see there's pregnancy, childbirth, and bonding. So I'll select that option. And now the chatbot says, okay, can you clarify for me, is the employer requesting to take leave for the birth or placement of a child, for bonding, or is it for pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions? So we'll say baby bonding here. So now the chatbot's analyzing really what laws apply. So starting with FMLA, some standard questions the chatbot's going to ask. Does the employee work for a private employer with 50 or more employees? So we'll select whatever option is most applicable. And then again, has the employee worked for the organization at least 12 months at the time of the requested leave will start? Has the employee worked at least 1,250 hours? We'll say yes. Does the employee work at a work site with this qualifying information? And are they requesting, to bond with a healthy newborn? So yes to that as well. Based on how I responded, the chatbot says, okay, it looks like this employee is eligible up to 12 weeks of unpaid job protected leave under FMLA. Then it provides some helpful information. Doesn't impact the eligibility, just good information to know regarding timing of employee notice, rules regarding key employees, as well as a note on accrued paid leave balances. And then we move on to the state law. So unless you're really familiar with this piece of legislation, and you may not be super familiar with how that law defines employee or covered employer. So you can open up these hyperlinks throughout the workflow to get a better understanding and description to help inform your answers as you're moving through this. So we'll say yes. Does the employee satisfy the earnings requirements? We'll say yes to that as well. So based on how I responded, it looks like the employee is also eligible for 12 weeks of paid job protected leave under the MPFMLA. And Massachusetts also has this parental leave law. So we'll again respond accordingly. Does this employee work for a covered employer as defined by this Massachusetts parental leave law? We'll say yes. Have they completed their initial probationary period? Yes. And have they provided proper notice, which for Massachusetts, we can see here it's at least 2 weeks notice. So we'd respond as well. And so based on how I responded to those questions, it also looks like the employee is eligible for 8 weeks of unpaid job protected leave under the Massachusetts parental leave law. So having reached the end of the workflow here, we've got a nice summary of all the different eligibilities and some additional helpful information as well. So if you select the final guidance hyperlink, that's going to pull up really a step-by-step checklist, a breakdown of what the HR team needs to do to process this leave request. So starting with step 1, I can highlight this text to create a task. What's nice is we'll also hyperlink any government forms here to reference. And it's also a collaborative experience. So if you wanted to maybe add an additional employee directly to a chat that you are working on, or just mention them in this discussions section, you have that option as well. And obviously with leave or any compliance scenario, oftentimes situations can be detailed or nuanced, and oftentimes additional questions will come up. So you can also reference this supplemental guidance, which is also going to be linked at the end of the workflow. and it's going to be related to whatever topic it is you're working on. So in this case, it's Massachusetts, it's baby bonding. And this is going to pull from our legal FAQ library, commonly asked questions our attorneys have been asked throughout their career for the topic that you're working on. So a quick article on, what forms do I need to use for this FMLA leave request? Maybe what happens if an employee isn't eligible for one of these leave types? What needs to be included in the notice of eligibility? How do I determine how much leave an employee is eligible for? Lots of details here. And if you still had questions, maybe the employee splits their time between Massachusetts and New York, and we want to be certain about what laws we need to be following here, you would come down here to initiate a contact an expert. With this functionality, it's no matter where you are working in the platform, you do have the option to drill down and select specific things that you're working on. So in this case, we're working on this chat focused on John Doe's parental leave. So I can type up my question, if necessary, upload attachments, and then hit submit. That'll go to our team. We'll be able to see what you're working on and provide a response within 1 to 2 business days. And what's nice is with that response, that's going to be reviewed by an attorney. Their information obviously is and guidance isn't going to be legal advice, but really a senior expert looking at the question and providing helpful information along the way. So the next space we can look at here is the legal FAQ library. As mentioned, that's going to be hyperlinked at the end of chatbot workflows, but just another tool for you to maybe more familiar with what you maybe have seen with another database where you can filter maybe by state or by certain legal topics. So maybe if we were looking for some helpful information on California and baby bonding, tons of articles in here we can reference regarding this California and baby bonding time, things like what happens if an employee's already exhausted their FMLA. California is very complicated, so we provide this helpful visual timeline in calculating, employee leave, or even maybe if you had 2 employees that work for the same employer who wanted to take baby bonding at the same time, there's a detailed article on that as well. You also have the capability to, again, filter from here, as well as make any favorites. So if you're constantly referencing certain FAQs, you've got the ability to quickly reference them here as well. Moving on to our resources section, this is really a space that's designed to provide helpful templates and guidance for your team to pull from. Starting off with policies, we have over 300 policy templates available for you to use. We start off at the national level, and then you can drill down to see state-specific policies as well. What's really nice is that we're going to go down to local level and even industry-specific as well. So you can see here's some sick leave policies, very specific for California, and even touching on some city and industry-specific for hotel employers as well. With each of these policies, they're really designed to be customizable but still compliant. They've been drafted by an attorney but written in HR's voice. From here, again, you can favorite, you can go into edit to make a custom version of the policy, download and distribute or share as well. We also have helpful forms, so things like disability accommodation request forms, employee meal break waiver forms for California and Washington. Within the agreement section, we have some helpful templates as well to pull from, both employee and separation agreement templates for each state. Also helpful, we've got checklists like how to do an employee termination, hiring process checklists, how-to guides like how to conduct an I-9 audit, over 150 job descriptions that you can pull from, and we also include our monthly compliance webinar recordings here as well. And a nice feature within this resource section, you've got the option to create resources from scratch. So maybe if you wanted to start uploading existing custom policies, you can do that, or just build them and create them from scratch to then manage them within the VirgilHR platform. And if you were maybe looking for, let's say, a policy template you wanted and not finding it here, if you come down to can't find a resource, you can describe what you're looking for in detail, hit request, and then our content team will draft something for you. So great example, we had a client asked for a consulting agreement. So this is what was put together for them and then hung here within the resource section for anyone to reference. Moving on to our multi-state comparison tool here. This is really helpful when it comes to needing to compare different laws in different states to create that side-by-side charting. So in this case, maybe we were doing a job posting and we wanted to learn a little bit more about the pay transparency requirements between California and Colorado. I'll select whatever states I want to compare, and then I can scroll through to find all of the different uh, laws that we can compare on. So, things like earned paid time, we've got minimum wage, we've got voting time off, and I'll come down to pay transparency here. I'll select state across the top, then hit create. And then I'm provided a detailed breakdown that's going to cover differences in pay equity between these states and covering things like salary history bands, job posting requirements, pay disclosure requirements, pay scales, and then, of course, never forgetting about local considerations as well. So flagging that San Francisco salary history ordinance as well. And then from here, the option to download if you're maybe doing comparisons frequently and need to reference that on a reoccurring basis. And then finally, we'll go through our handbook builder. So one of the key things that makes our handbook builder a little bit different is really, again, the customization options, the ability to not only create a compliant handbook, maintain it as well. So I'll go through an example of what the handbook builder looks like just to give a detailed visual on what the process looks like. So if we're building maybe ABC's company handbook, we'll say input that information there. We can upload our company logo. And what's nice is you can either create a handbook where you have the general policies in addition to all of the state policies, or if you'd prefer to create your general or federal handbook and then do individual handbooks for each of your state addenda, you could do either one. I'll do a combined handbook so you can see what the interface looks like. We'd go through and select whatever states we'd like included. I'll select these 5 and then move on to a brief questionnaire. By defining the number of employees and is this a covered employer, that'll inform what policies are suggested to me to include in the handbook. We'll say how the company refers to ourselves, who they're going to come to if they have questions. So that way this information pre-populates when you go to create the digital draft. And then again, some options here. You've got the ability to upload an existing handbook. So not only giving you a warm start if you are doing a handbook revamp or bringing it into the VirgilHR platform, but in so doing, our software using language recognition technology will also identify any missing policies both at the general or state level. So really helpful in potentially determining if your handbook requires any significant policy changes to be included. And then you can also create from scratch. So I'll select that option. So we start off with the general policy section here. By selecting rearrange, I can see these are the overarching sections that have been created for us. Totally customizable. You can rename, drag, drop, rearrange, modify as you see fit. And then we can start to build out the handbooks, one section at a time. So I'll come over here to policy topics, and then I can filter by the category. I can also filter by source. So anything original is going to be a VirgilHR template. Anything custom would be something maybe that you've modified within the resource library, or if you wanted to create a custom policy directly from here. And what's also nice is you can filter under type to see what is mandatory versus optional. So maybe if we wanted to include these mandatory policies here, I'll select those, then add them to the handbook. When I do so, with this section here, this is going to confirm which section I'd like them to be added to, then hit add. Once they're over here, then I can select edit to go in and make any modifications, to customize further, some formatting capabilities as well. And you can also rename, move, and again, modify as needed from here. Once you were done with the general policy, you would then move on to the state. So because I selected those, I think 5 states at the beginning, these are the policy topics that are automatically showing up for me here. And again, I can see what's mandatory versus optional. I can also drill down to see any city-specific ones, and again, custom policies by state as well. So I'll select them, add them to the handbook here. With the policy templates, oftentimes our lawyers have left helpful notes along the way. So you can see regarding this Alabama's Adoption Promotion Act, who it applies to. So that way you can go in, read the note to determine, how it potentially applies to your company, and then move from there. And then if you are doing the combined handbook, you do have the option to group the policies by state as well, and then can toggle between the different states from there. Then we'll select preview to see a preview and draft of what the handbook looks like. I can use these arrows to jump to any portion of the handbook to see how it's going to populate, make any additional formatting from here. You can always go back and make edits. And then once it's complete, some options for, again, maintaining, collaborating, and working on this handbook. So one of the unique features about our handbook builder is as laws are changing, and policies require an update as a result of a law that's changed, we'll essentially push that update directly to your handbook. So I've got this handbook notification here with this red dot, which indicates to me I've got a handbook that requires an update. So I can scroll through to find handbooks and I can see clearly which ones require an update. So to update it, all I do is select view. I'll get this pop-up or just this update button here. And then I can see what policies require an update. I can preview it or just update it from there. So really effective way in maintaining that compliant handbook. And if we're doing a revamp of the handbook or potentially multiple team members are working on the handbook or reviewing the handbook, we also have a commenting feature. This allows you to directly add comments within the handbook. Again, create tasks that can be assigned to individuals to manage from there, and that can be managed and marked as opened or resolved as you're doing any revisions or collaboration on the handbook. And then for distribution, some options as well. You can download the handbook to then hang on a company intranet or distribute it in a different way. Or you can also send the handbook out for employee acknowledgement using our e-signature feature here. Just to give a sense of what that looks like, if this was a handbook we were hoping to send out for employee acknowledgement, this is one that I've already sent out and received a signature on. From here, you can create a signature page. You can upload a list of existing contacts of who you'd like to sign the handbook. And then once those signatures are complete, you can see that signature reflected here, download any completion certificates, and then manage any further e-signature needs from here as well. Just a few other unique aspects to the Virgil platform to touch on briefly. We do have a report section. This allows you to see some analytics into where teams are spending their time, specifically with the chatbot. So you can filter to see what types of chats your team is working on, as well as who it's been assigned to, certain topics that are being worked on as well. We also have product support really built into the platform. So both the ability to provide feedback that'll go directly to our product team or initiate a request for help as well, which will go to our product team. And that really is the full tour of the platform. So we covered our legal updates in the compliance calendar. We covered the task system and capability. We went through the chatbot as well as the contact and expert capability. And then some of the resources and tools like the legal FAQ library, our resources, multi-state comparison tool, and the handbook builder. If you have any additional questions about VirgilHR, please feel free to reach out. And if we'd like to go through any specific use cases or workflows, happy to do that as well in a follow-up video. Thanks for taking the time to watch.